Shabbat. Thank God it's Shabbat. Like many of us, or maybe like most of us, I'm experiencing severe neurological distress because of the assault on my eyes, my back, my arms, my brain, following 4 months of living in close proximity to a flickering screen. I can now host a Zoom meeting. I can let people in from a waiting room. I can separate a group into sub-rooms to promote real discussions. I can share documents. I can conduct a survey. I can take straw polls. I am becoming a competent Zoom meister. You got to believe that the price for this is steep. My brain is actually shredding, though at my age people are falsely assuming that that shredding is really just a product of my advancing old age. Not so, trust me. There is nothing natural about what is happening to me. I feel like that fellow in Hair who proclaims that he's falling through a hole in the flag, or maybe I'm just tumbling down Alice's rabbit hole with the Cheshire Cat's voice calling out behind me. Don't worry, we're all mad here. By July 23rd, I will have spent 5 hours a day, 4 days a week for 4 weeks, participating through Zoom in the most fabulous learning experience, studying together with 1,100 colleagues, with perhaps 3,000 other Jewish professionals and lay leaders at a super advanced Jewish studies program created by the Shalom Hartman Institute in Jerusalem. Ancient texts, modern Hebrew poetry, theology, philosophy, biblical analysis, Talmudic pilpul, ethics. So here is a tiny gift, plucked by me from Hartman, a gift from me to you. A Hebrew poem by Shaul Chernichovsky, a poem written in 1893 in Odessa. Chernichovsky, the poem Sachaki. You can laugh at me, for I am dreaming. I, the dreamer, am speaking now. Laugh, for I still believe in humans, and I still believe in the thou. For my soul still craves its freedom. My soul wasn't sold to a golden calf, for I do believe in humans. Mighty spirits don't grow old. Laugh, for I believe in friendship, and in a heart I will find again, a heart to share my hopes and courage, to feel my joys and touch my pain. For I still believe in the future, even if it's far away. Peace and quiet will actually come, and nations will be blessed on that day. Sachaki. Laugh at my dreams, if you really need to do so. Chernichovsky. Sachaki. Our combined sedras this Shabbat conclude the book of Numbers, Mattot and Masei. Numbers 30, verse 2 and following. So today is therefore a SIYYUM day. You know that we celebrate a milestone, Even HaDerech, when we conclude a book of the Torah. We recite Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek twice, Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek. And then we reach for the pickled herring and gefilte fish balls, some hummus and baba ganoush. And even though we are in the middle of the final countdown to Tisha B'Av, it's Shabbat. So we will celebrate Saturday morning. Mattot and Masei are a textual smorgasbord. The Torah's table is laden with tidbits that need to be taken care of before we move on to the book of Deuteronomy and to the final sermon of Moses to the Israelite people. Women's rights are addressed. Do women have the right to take oaths of their own without the approval of their husband or father? And can these men annul a woman's oath without consulting with her? Do women have the right to inherit? And if so, under what conditions? The people are being prepared for an invasion of the promised land. A census is conducted so that an army can be organized. 2.5, it starts off 2 and then becomes 2.5. Reuben, Gad, and half of the tribe of Manasseh, 2.5 tribes, would rather not enter the land. They like the fertility of the area in which they find themselves right before entering the land. A compromise is found. Moses rehearses with the people for one last time the various stages of the 40-year wandering. The Israelites must never forget how those 40 years gave birth to something that never existed before. The Israelites became a people during the Exodus and have remained so forever after. And one more thing. The Israelites had a genocide to carry out. You heard me. At the beginning of chapter 31, Moses receives a command from God to take murderous vengeance against the Midianite people. The Midianites were Israel's sworn enemy. They attacked our people physically, and they attacked us through seduction into adultery and seduction into idolatry. They must be totally destroyed. And they were. Under the leadership of Pinchas, that famous or infamous Pinchas from last week, every male Midianite was killed. They also, in the midst, killed Balaam, the author of Mattovu, who also, Balaam was a Midianite. They took vast amounts of spoils and burned the Midianite towns to the ground. The spoils were then very carefully divided up. Moses then explicitly commands that every Midianite woman who had been sexually active had to be killed as well. To our ears, this is a moral nightmare and outrage. But we don't remember this story. We actually can't believe this story. Genocide? Moses and God commanded a genocide? We shudder. An entire people was wiped out. By us? Moses hit a rock, and for hitting a rock, he was punished by God. Hitting a rock, no. Committing a genocide, that was acceptable. We don't know much about most of the events that were said to have occurred during the Exodus. Maybe some events recorded were fragmentary memories of actual events for later generations to struggle with and attempt to understand. Maybe some events were constructed long after the fact as cautionary tales. Maybe some events were absorbed from stories that were in the Middle Eastern public domain, something that we would call today cultural appropriation. We can even take real comfort now from the fact that in the book of Joshua, the book which in the Jewish canon immediately follows the book of Deuteronomy, Midian was regarded as a large and dangerous enemy. Wait, so a genocide clearly had not taken place. Scholars tell us that our story in the book of Numbers was probably retrojected into the Torah by Israelite leaders much later on, maybe leaders who wanted to prove why military victories were necessary to preserve the security of the nation. A sigh of relief, a deep breath. There was no genocide, Baruch Hashem. It was invented later on to prove a point, but it still sits there as part of our sacred Torah. It is privileged by the very same protections given to the Ten Commandments and to the Shema. It claims to be the Word of God, and it clearly is not the Word of God. The world around us today, my friends, is writhing in chaos. An old age is dying. A new age is struggling to be born. What values, what principles will guide the new emerging age? Will that age be superior to the age that is fractured and broken and dying, that very same age into which we were born. We do not and cannot know. But this we do know. We must carefully examine the moral and ethical underpinnings of our faiths, our national and ethnic histories, our own family heritage, our Torah. The dross and decay must be set aside. The windows of our national house must be thrown open to be aired out. The past, indeed, must be acknowledged. But the past cannot become a rigid template by which we shape the future. Preserve the best. Harshly judge the rest. Sachaki. Laugh at me, for I still believe in the future, even if it's far away. Peace and quiet will actually come, and nations will be blessed on that day. Sachaki. Okay. Laugh at my dreams if you really need to do so. But I still believe in humanity. Shabbat Shalom. And we will see each other next week. Shabbat Shalom.